Hello and thank you for joining us for the first ever Trade Plates Live. We're broadcasting live from Gosport today. If you want to join in the conversation at all you have to do is look at the little box below the screen right now and just type in any questions or opinions that you've got. If you haven't done already, just go on there, let us know your name, let us know where you're from, because we'd love to know who's watching today. So that's enough of you. Joining me in the studio today, I've got Neil Smith, who is Operations Director for Imperial Car Supermarket.
Hello.
Next to him we've got Alexis Cassie, who you probably know better from Twitter, but she's also the owner of Prestige Diesels Portsmouth. And finally, we've got car dealer's very own Andy Entwistle, who's going to be giving his unique insight on the motoring industry for us today. So we're going to be talking about different topics that have popped up on the car dealer website and forum, starting with something that's been cropping up over the whole year basically, is how sales been going. So I'm going to start with you, Alexis, because you're quite a small outfit comparably. How's things been for you?
A slow January, kind of disappointing. It was average and we expected great things. Cap said it was going to be the best January ever, and we kind of got to the end of it thinking, oh, it wasn't great for us, but we went into a really good February, probably our best ever. So we totally redeemed ourselves, and so it's been really good since then. Again in March, really good start to March, so onwards and upwards I hope for the rest of the year.
Okay. Was it a particularly bad January for you, or?
No, it just wasn't what we expected, to be honest. It was an average month. We expected more. People were saying in the market that it was going to be a really good January. There's going to be lots more used cars in the market, and it was just, you know, it wasn't very exciting, if I'm honest. We had a better January than last year, but not what we actually anticipated. We anticipated a lot better than it was.
Okay. And what about on your side?
Yeah, I'd have to agree. January was okay. Usually January's a big month. It wasn't as big as we'd have liked to have been. February was probably on a par with January, but we have started March flying. So March is looking great at the moment. If it continues the way it is, then we'll have a great March, probably a record month.
Cool. Have you got any big plans for this year? Anything?
I think we've done most of our big plans over the last 3 years, opening site every year. Yeah, we're looking to sort of increase our sales incrementally through more long distance sales and selling through internet online,
right?
Rather than continually taking on new sites. That's the costly way to do it.
Okay.
So we're looking at different ways we can sort of facilitate that at the moment.
So that brings me quite nicely on to my next question, which was, do you find that walk-ins were better for your online sales?
I suppose right now we're really researching the online sales area of the business in terms of cutting down the time the customer's spending on site. For us, we try and deliver the same day, so let the customers come in, test drive, negotiate, do the deal, drive away on the same day. What we're trying to do now is do a lot more of the work at the front end via online and phone, so that when the customer comes in, they're almost bypassing the traditional sales process and going straight into a test drive, handover and delivery, thereby making it a better experience for the customer and accelerating those customers through our process.
Are you finding that most people that turn up, they know already what they want to buy, and so you need to get them signed up to a particular car?
Yeah, we did some research 2 years ago now with Auto Trader, which showed us that at that point 57% of people were coming into our business with no prior contact, so they were finding everything they needed to find out online. Since then we've released a new website back in April the year before last. That gives the customers much more information, and we're seeing an increase in those customers now coming into the business which have not had prior contact with us, but they know what they want.
Right.
They're either on the particular car or they know what type of car they want. And in the past couple of months we've changed our whole process of dealing with those customers. We do far more of a consultative role with the customer now. Giving the customer the time. If the customer's coming on a particular car, we'll get them straight into the car. No switching to part exchange, no slowing the process down. It's about that customer, you know, they're more knowledgeable than we are now. They understand the car, they understand what they're looking for, so we're just going to facilitate that.
Okay. And for you, what do you find?
Well, you know where we're based. We are tucked away, so I think most of our sales are online, but what we're finding is we get a lot more referrals walking through our door. People are saying, I've just been told about you from so-and-so who bought a car. But we're reliant on online sales, basically. And the consumer knows. I always say, when somebody phones up and says, oh, do you want to advertise with us? There isn't actually a portal where somebody would look for cars. I say no, because at the end of the day, the consumer's looking for a car. They're not looking for a dealership. The second thing they look at then is the dealership usually. And as we're quite small, we have to have that right car for them. So that's why I think we're much more driven by, you know, people finding us online and finding the right car with us.
How important is your website then?
Massively important. I think because that's, at the end of the day, that's our shop window.
Yeah.
Imperial have a lovely building, you know, that people drive past them every day. For us, our website's our shop window, and that is, you would never drive past us. You'd physically have to come in to our industrial estate to actually find us. And so the website is probably the most important thing. It's the first visual image that they're going to get of you as a business. And it's kind of there and then whether they're going to decide if they're going to take that extra step to come and see you at that point.
What are your like key things that you need in a website to make it? What do you think people are looking for?
I think people want something that's easy to use, that's very, very clear. And I think the last few years, what I feel when I look at other people's websites is trying to not give them too much information, a lot more visuals, something to engage with rather than, you know, a lot of text to read. It's trying to get people to kind of engage with that page and keep them longer on that page for them then to make that decision to then come and see you.
And how many, you don't have to tell me the figures exactly, but do you find that...
I probably won't know.
How many people do you find go to your website and then actually go on and buy a car? Do you have quite a good...
Oh, I wouldn't know.
Okay.
I don't know if that's maybe something I should know. Should I know that, Neil?
Probably should. I can tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just to touch on the point on the website, for us it's prime, massive,
Yeah.
it's everything. We're seeking to get business not only locally but nationally. And as you said, Alexis, it's the first impression they get of the business. So we've invested massively in the website over the last 2 years in terms of how we present the vehicles, with interior spins, exterior spins, door open spins, 40 images. We publish the documentation, service history, HPI, V5. So for us, you're right, it's not about loading the site up with text, it's about giving them a great experience visually, giving them the information they need to know, which is the history of that vehicle, and then being confident enough that our price is right in the marketplace to draw people to those cars on that website, and confident enough in the product itself and the way we prepare it that customers will make the decision to come to us.
Yeah.
We, you know, 3-4 years ago, we subscribed to give as little away as possible, make the customer make contact, and then we'll deal with it. No, the customer's too knowledgeable.
I've noticed your website changed, and I've noticed it's really good. I love your spinning cars
Yeah,
as well. I'm
spinning
so
cars.
jealous of that. Can we bring our cars to your showroom and start taking some photos?
There's a cost, Alexis, but we'll do that for you. That's not a problem.
Got a question for you, going back to the original point. You said you had a fairly strong January.
Yes.
Year on year, is it up or down?
Site for site, it was down, but again, it's very difficult because we opened Swanwick in again in August last year, which is a smaller site. We opened Chertsey, which is a big site, in November, and we were spreading stock across the site, so it's been difficult to really take a year-on-year view. Okay. January, I mean, units-wise, we did 805 units in January. Last year we did 695. So we would have expected a little more out of January, to be honest.
Well, it's just that if you look at new car figures, year on year, February's up, what, 9%?
Yeah.
You know, everyone's saying it's a great time. People I talk to, used car dealers, aren't seeing that. You know, the used car side of things, it's a struggle.
You're right, we certainly don't see the growth that the new car industry is seeing. How much of that is down to pre-registrations, how much is down to the fantastic PCP deals?
I was going to say, is it PCP?
I think PCP gives us, you know, we went quite heavy on late plate stock middle to end of last year to be able to offer PCP. It is attractive, but even then we're competing with the manufacturers out there who are doing 0% deals. They're doing subsidies, deposit subsidies, deposit contributions.
Crazy, I think you can get a smart 4.2 for 99 down, 99 a month.
Yeah.
A 5-year-old Fiesta isn't even that cheap,
no.
You know, on a great finance deal, and that's got to be hurting the used car market. You know.
Yeah, I think, you know, from our point of view, where we sit in the market, we sort of specialise in the 2 to 3 year old car with very high specification. So if you then go and compare that with the PCP deals, those PCP deals that are published are on the lower spec vehicles. They're not highly spec with the extra factory fit extras. So we make a big point again through the website of publicising that extra factory fit that we've got on there. Sometimes £6,000, £7,000, £8,000 worth of extras that would not be on the base model. The PCP, we've pulled back a little bit on that. It's a difficult market to be in, the late plate market. because you are competing directly head on with
especially
manufacturers.
Especially where we're positioned as well, because we are on the doorstep of the main dealer, especially in the Portsmouth branch. You are. We're right on that doorstep.
Yeah, we're opposite.
Do they go to you first or the main dealer? That choice, you know, they probably would always choose the main dealer first, to be honest.
So I think, so to go back, January was okay. February was probably a better month last year, but March has started very well. So looking good.
What about consumer confidence? Does it feel like it's continuing to rise, or is it taking a bit of a knock recently?
I think what we're seeing in March, it seems to be on the up now.
Yeah,
it does. You would say so, would you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that the VW saga is pretty much forgotten about.
Because you specialise in diesels, and you were concerned that this was going to impact
your business.
Do you know
what? I had somebody part exchange a Scirocco in yesterday, and I asked them, how did you feel? And they said, well, I wasn't bothered. A bit naughty of them, but I wasn't bothered. There is a very mixed kind of opinion out there, but I think that that's been and gone now, and I think it's done. And you know, at the end of the day, I still think the consumers, there's always going to be certain consumers who want to consider saving money and buying a used car over a new car. And I think there's always going to be that market split. And they can keep on pushing the PCPs as the way they are, but I think eventually that's going to burn out at some point. I think it's going to have its cycle like anything else.
But what does that mean for you? Now you've got this part exchange Volkswagen in, what does that mean for you selling that on to someone?
I'm going to be really honest, because I find it a little bit, I said to you earlier, you know, they've got a recall letter. It was, I think it was, I don't know, maybe November, December. Don't quote me on that, anybody. And then they haven't heard anything since. So now as a used car dealer, I'm in the position of selling that car. How do I explain what's going to happen next when we don't know? How do I explain? Because we've been governed by VW now. That car needs to go back to VW for a recall of some description, but I don't know when it's going to be. So there's always going to be, is that customer going to turn around and say, well, what do I do when? Well, I have no answers for that. And
so
it is a little difficult.
Has that stopped people buying VWs in your view?
Well, we pulled back a little, if I'm honest. It was a risk that we decided as a company at the time we weren't going to take, because we didn't know how it was going to play out.
Right.
So we pulled away slightly. We're now going back into that market and they're selling fine.
Okay.
But we haven't had one where the recall's still outstanding and we have no answers for a consumer. This is going to be the first. I'll be really interested to see how it plays out.
What about the nearly new stuff?
For us, in the first couple of weeks when the story hit, we made some decisions to pull back a little. Especially when it was Volkswagen and then through to the Audi models. Yeah. At that time, we probably had a few queries. Our stance then was basically, well, look, go to the website, go to volkswagen.co.uk, see what the advice is there. Much the same as now. We've not seen a tremendous drop in sales on Volkswagen. We've gone back into Volkswagen quite heavily. It's always been one of the major 5 brands for us. And I think although there was a lot of concern at the time, that has dissipated now, and because of what PR has been put out there, what marketing's going out there, and how they're supporting it and looking to support it, it's not really a concern that our customers have with us. I think as long as they're more confident with Volkswagen, they will still come and buy a Volkswagen from us. And we make it quite clear that we can't answer the question.
You didn't make the car.
We didn't make the car. We can't answer the question. However, if you're concerned, go to the website, put the VRM in, and it gives you the information on that vehicle.
I think the fact that Volkswagen make fantastic cars, that is why they've come away the way they have. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you still get into a Volkswagen, whether it's a Golf, a Touareg, whatever, and you think, this drives really well.
And I guess for you guys, because if people lost a bit of faith for a few weeks, you had a whole raft of other brands to offer them.
Yeah.
So you probably suffered less than someone who is
if they're purely Volkswagen
franchise dealer.
Yeah, then it would have been an issue for a couple of months, I would think. So.
I don't know if it was coincidence or it was me being cynical, but when this all hit, the price of diesel fell and it was at its lowest, and it was the same as the price of petrol. And now that it's quietened down, I don't know if you've noticed it's crept up again, and diesel is now more expensive than petrol. So I don't know whether the whole country went through this very brief period of we hate diesels.
Yeah, I think there was that moment of clarity for a few people, probably wrongly, in terms of looking at diesels in a different light. But again, from our perspective, the majority of our stock is diesel.
Yeah, same as us. We didn't struggle selling them. Don't get me wrong.
Economy-wise, you can't beat the diesel.
No. January we were thinking, is it because we've got diesels? But we then looked into February and literally one after the other was diesel, diesel. And actually we were left with a hybrid, which Scott decided to buy a Toyota Auris. and we still have that. Not that for long. We haven't had it for that long, but it is a hybrid. You know, at the end of the day, and all the diesel's sold, and the hybrid's still there. I don't think we've had it for 4 weeks.
Let us have that for the Chertsey branch. London like hybrids.
So we're doing deals here now. That's a good point. We're just going to pause. Yeah, we're just going to go to a quick break. We'll be back in around 3 minutes, and we're going to have the lovely Nona Balkis from Logistics, who's going to be having a quick chat with us. So we'll see you in 3.
At this year's CDX 16, car dealers can expect an action-packed day. We've managed to line up some fantastic keynote speakers. People like Facebook and Twitter are going to be there to explain to dealers how to use social media to the best possible way when it comes to selling cars. We've got Google, who are going to explain how the search engine can work best for dealers. We're also delighted to say that we've got Jim Holder. He's the editorial director from Haymarket, behind brands like What Car, Autocar and Piston Heads, and he's going to be giving some fantastic insight into what car buyers want these days.
Some of the key workshops of CDX 16 will be covering topics such as personnel, training and development, how to find the right talent, how to retain that talent, and how to look at things like your website, marketing, and of course the all-important how to increase sales.
Suppliers really need to be at CDX. It has rapidly become the event for the motor trade. Last year we had 1,500 dealers turn up. This year we're aiming for 2,000.
All of our workshops are hosted by experts in their field. So you're going to come away and you're going to have learnt something from those workshops that you can implement and put into place in your business the very next day.
This year for CDX 16 we're not resting on our laurels, we are making it bigger and better than ever before. And that's not only the expo is going to be larger, we've got an additional hall, but we're also going to be focusing more on the workshops. The workshops are where dealers can learn something new. We've got 12 fantastic topics. They range from recruitment to personnel to making the most out of online sales. And it's the place where dealers can really pick up some hints and tips to better their business and make that day out of the office really pay for itself. So if they haven't got a place at this year's CDX, they need to hurry up because places are selling out very, very quickly indeed. It's very easy to get more information about CDX 16. They can simply click on a link that's probably going to be playing underneath my face. They can call the office on 02392 522 434 or tweet us. I'm at Car Dealer Ed, the magazine's at Car Dealer Mag. We're out there, we're listening to what you've got to say, and if you need any help in booking a place or booking a ticket, then get in touch with myself or any one of the team here.
Hello and welcome back to Trade Plates Live. You can see joining me on the screen now, we've got Nona Balkis from Logistics. Do you want to say a little hello, Nona?
Hi
there. We're going to just have a quick session. We've got some questions for Nona. And we're going to pick up firstly on something which cropped up on the Car Dealer Forum, and I know some people have been discussing on Twitter as well, about finance agreements having some strange clauses coming in. And Nona's just going to explain. Can you just start by explaining how this has come about, how you guys found out about it?
Okay, well, we've got quite a few sets of terms and conditions being sent to us at the moment from car dealers. And they probably come about because of the Consumer Rights Act, which obviously came in on October the 1st last year. Prior to that, everything worked with the Sale of Goods Act and the Supply of Goods Implied Terms Act 1973. But for consumers, everything is now under the one act, and that includes HP rights as well for consumers. So arguably that gave consumers more rights, which means where the finance company, because the finance company obviously buy the car from the dealer and hire it to the customer. That customer has more rights as a consumer to business deal, than the finance company do going back to the dealer, because that's a business to business transaction, which isn't covered at all by the Consumer Rights Act, obviously in the name, Consumer Rights Act there. So I think finance companies probably thought there was a bit of an imbalance there, because they would be susceptible to consumers going back to them saying, I want my 30-day right to reject, you've had one chance to repair, I want my final right to reject. So they were kind of cornered a little bit by that, and they're not necessarily going to have the same rights to go back to our dealers. So the finance companies are now putting these contracts in place to basically almost force the dealer to go along with whatever the customer's rights are under the Consumer Rights Act.
So what would be worst case scenario, I guess, for a dealer if they got caught out by one of these clauses?
Well, we see a lot of cases where consumers complain. Obviously, some complaints are well-founded, others aren't so well-founded. And some of the clauses in some of the agreements talk about the dealer will indemnify the finance company even for an alleged breach. So if the consumer complains, my car isn't starting, they go back to the dealer investigates, nothing wrong with the car. The customer will quite often then go to the finance company, and the finance company will quite often just take the customer's word for it, unfortunately. And if you sign into these contracts, the dealer's not going to have a lot of room to argue, to say, well, hang on, that's not fair. The car was okay, there wasn't a fault, or perhaps there was a fault, but it didn't make the car not of satisfactory quality. There's so many different arguments to have with the Consumer Rights Act, but consumer organisations will tell the consumer there's a fault, you can take the car back. And they can't, they don't have the right to do that. The fault has to make the car not of satisfactory quality. And we found that some of the finance houses are a bit too quick to agree with the customer. And that could mean that the dealer has to give a refund because the finance company's decided to give a refund. We had one not so long back where the finance company was trying to force our dealer to give a refund without our dealer having had a chance to look at the car. We got involved, we argued for that, and the independent inspection found out that the consumer had put petrol instead of diesel in the car. So, consumer problem, obviously the consumer didn't fess up to this, and the finance company was saying, well, the car doesn't start, she's got a breakdown report saying the car won't start, so that's enough evidence. And we're saying, no, that's not enough evidence, we need a proper independent report. So yeah, that sort of thing could happen really if dealers sign up to these terms where they can just indemnify the finance house for any fault under any circumstances.
So in that situation, if they've signed this document, can you then go back and argue that's unfair, or is that's the final word, they've signed this?
Yeah, it's business to business documents. You as a business are supposed to know what you're doing and get advice, so you're kind of stuck with anything really contractually wise. With the sort of statutory stuff under the Consumer Rights Act, you've got a lot of terms like reasonable and these sort of terms where there's a lot of room to argue. But if you sign a contract that says the dealer has to indemnify the finance house for any breach or any alleged breach, then you're pretty much stuck with it really on a business to business. You know, don't sign contracts unless you've read all the terms and conditions really.
So what's the best thing for a dealer to do if they receive a contract and it's got something like this in there, or if they're just concerned about that it might be in there, what should they do?
Well, you know, I know a lot of people don't like reading terms and conditions. I unfortunately do it for a living, so I have to do it over and over from there. But you do have to read them. You know, you do need to know what you're signing up for. I say look for terms like alleged breach. You will indemnify for any alleged breach or any breach. Or I saw one in another finance agreement where the finance company said the dealer would reimburse them for any issue at the sole discretion of the finance company. So they didn't even want to get involved in a discussion at all. But conversely, I've seen agreements that say if there's a dispute between the dealer, the finance house and the customer, either party is entitled to get an expert report. They're the sort of agreements you want to sign up to, where from the off, the finance company isn't looking to immediately blame the dealer and get their money back from the dealer. I know why finance companies have done it, and if I was advising finance companies, I'd probably be advising them to put these sort of clauses in to cover themselves, particularly because the finance companies are at the beck and call really of the Financial Ombudsman Service, because once the consumer complains to the finance company and the finance company won't provide a remedy, they can go to the Financial Ombudsman Service. And unfortunately, some of the decisions that come out from the Financial Ombudsman Service are not always in line with the law because they can go beyond and look at what's fair and what's reasonable, and they don't stick to the letter of the law. And I think I do a lot of PPI cases still for dealers that are still dragging on, and some of the FOS, Financial Ombudsman decisions from there are shocking, really. But you're kind of stuck with it. If the customer goes down that route, that's the decision you're stuck with. So finance companies are trying to sort of get out of that and earlier pass the buck on to the dealer. But, you know, there has to be a bit more fair play going on, I think, between dealer and finance company.
Yeah. I know the question that everyone's been asking, and I don't know if you can give us an answer to this, is who are these finance companies that they should be avoiding or wary of?
Yeah.
It's a difficult one, isn't it?
You know, we're not in a position really to be naming and shaming finance companies, because, you know, they're sending agreements to their customer and we're having a look at it on a confidential basis on behalf of that customer for there. But, you know, look out for the terms alleged breach, any breach, sole discretion, those type of terms that are in there. You will see them if you look through, because they tend to be some of the shorter contracts. The longer contracts, interestingly, tend to be a little bit more fairer and they've got more in. So if it's a pretty short contract, chances are you'll find it in there and you'll be able to see it. But, you know, we only see the documents that have been issued to that client. That finance house might be giving different documents to different clients, and we don't know. But if I tell you who's after, you might want to invite them on to talk about it, see why they've got the terms in. But it wouldn't be fair to shame them without them having a say, really.
So is there anything else that dealers should be looking out for? Is there any other funny clauses that might be good to know about?
Yeah, no, I think most of them around this issue of indemnifying the finance house back. I say I can totally understand why the finance houses do it, but as others have shown, you don't have to do that. You know, be a bit fairer to the dealer. Be aware that the consumer has got a lot of rights. You don't need to be giving the consumer any more rights than they already have. I think we've got a case at the moment where a finance company, because this is what can happen if it goes wrong. We've said there was nothing wrong with the car, which there wasn't. The finance company said, well, we don't really care. We're not going to get a report. We're going to reimburse the customer. It was only a £2,000 car, but they've put that car in auction. And how much did they get in auction for it, do you think, on a £2,000 car?
£700?
700? 50?
50 quid, yeah. So taking out the auction costs, you're looking at a minus £300 balance. So of course they want the whole thing back now from our dealer. So that's probably the worst case that can happen. You know, the finance company just go off on their own, put it in an auction, then come after you for the difference in value. Now that's under the old rules, so we're going to be able to argue that. But if they had signed into a contract with, you will indemnify us for any alleged breach or any customer complaint, then there wouldn't have been a lot we could have done for that dealer, unfortunately. So if you don't sign into those things, we can help you. If you do sign into those things, we're a bit limited as to what we can do for dealers.
That's some really great advice, Nona. Thank you very much for joining. I think we're going to wave goodbye to you now.
Bye.
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 Eventually.
So we just love having her on the screen. So I don't know if you guys have got any opinions on that, if you've run into any trouble like that.
No, not along those lines. I mean, obviously the new Consumer Rights Act has taken a little bit of time to get to grips with. Luckily for us, we've got a primary authority agreement with Portsmouth City Council trade standards.
Right.
So we work very closely with them and have done for the last 3 to 4 years, and they support us in that area. Our finance company, our primary lender, is fantastic as well, so we get support there, and then we've also got dispute resolution services, and so we're sort of working our way through the new Consumer Rights Act. It has meant we've taken a couple of cars back, but there are still a few small grey areas.
Right.
But
I guess it's good when you've got an infrastructure like that, though, to deal with everything.
Yeah, and that's something we put in place, as I say, 3 to 4 years ago, to make sure we're getting the right advice, and also from trade standards. It's a great selling point when we're talking to customers, especially if customers, well, I'll go to trade standards, right? Not a problem. We've got primary authority agreement. These are the people you need to speak to. Right. And sometimes it takes the wind out of the sails a little bit.
Yeah.
But again, we'll act on any advice that we're given, and it's been a really beneficial relationship for us over the last 3 to 4 years.
I don't know if you guys want to add anything before.
touch wood, we don't have many problems, but we're small, so you know we don't do so many cars. So,
but then equally, I think it is the smaller dealers that are more likely to come across these problem contracts, because once you get to a larger independent or a franchise dealer, to a degree you can dictate certain terms with your finance provider. As a small dealer, you come in, you're on standard terms. Here's your contract, and the advice, you know, to read it through. And if you don't like it, don't sign it. That's great. But then where else do you go? And that's the problem that you've got with these guys are flexing their muscles, I think.
I think for some of the independents, yes, but I will say we've got a fantastic relationship with Santander. We have never had anybody phone up saying they wanted to bring a car back. We just don't have those problems. So I think they look at your track history and they look at what's happened in the past. And if, for argument's sake, we did have somebody with a problem who was on finance, I think they would be a lot more willing to help us because it's not our normal style. I wonder if these contracts are given to maybe dealers that keep on having problems.
I don't think it's going to be the dealers who've got the problems. I think it's more like this, that it's down to the finance house and who they are. Because my track record, my history, I used to work very closely with the finance providers, and some of them are superb, and some of them will work with the dealers. Some of them, the dealer is the number one enemy, and as soon as things go wrong, they will go after the dealer first course without any. That example then, sell the car, go after the dealer. Now that example, hopefully the dealer's been speaking to the guys at Logistics, that car potentially was undersold, and therefore they can go after the finance house and say, you undersold the car, let's talk about what my what the real value of this deal is.
If you have a dealer though that's consistently selling cars on finance and consistently having problems, because they're not checking the maintenance of the car before they sell it, they're not going through the car thoroughly and doing any PDIs or MOTs to make sure that there is no known problems. You know, if they're consistently offending, then I can understand why contracts like that.
I don't think it's based on that though. It's
well, if they're constantly coming back because they're faulty, and finance is getting rejected, I would imagine that any finance house, any decent finance house, will just turn them off. But I do know some of the smaller providers, some of the, you know, I'm not going to mention any names here, but you know, you've got a smaller independent person who's, you know, working hard, and their finance house might just say, well, these are the terms, accept them or don't accept them. Whereas if you go to Imperial, who've got a number of outlets and can actually, I would imagine you're able, not necessarily to dictate, but you can have a better conversation.
More planned.
More planned.
I mean, our primary lender is Santander, and prior to Santander, we had another primary lender, which was nowhere near as communicative or accepting of the problems experienced. So back then, we had a few occasions, probably 2 to 3 years ago, where, for want of a better phrase, they would roll over and pay out. And in the end, we got to the stage with them where we said, well, you made that decision, we didn't, we're not going to cover you on this one. And that's when we started to look to move to a different lender. And as Alexis said, with Santander, and I mean the volume of business we put with them and the amount of cars we sell on finance with them, we have a fantastic relationship with them. And not once have they come to us and said, you have to take this car back.
No.
It's about us making that decision.
Absolutely. And it goes back to your point, I think it's the goodwill, isn't it? If you've thrown X many hundred deals through them and none of them have gone wrong, then when you do have a problem, they're going to be far more willing to talk to you. As you said, if 1 month's going bad, then they're going to be less willing to put their hand in their pocket, I think.
No, I think that's...
It's something everyone's got to be careful of, I think, though, because...
I'm thinking, wait a minute, when did we
have a look.
I don't remember signing one for a very long time.
I think that the advice is right. Look at your terms and conditions. You know,
and if you're not sure,
get yourself a glass of wine on a Friday night, sit down and look at terms and conditions.
I just don't see us touch wood, I don't foresee us encountering those problems.
You never know.
I'm going to be positive. You do never know, but I'm going to be positive about it. We haven't in 5 years, so I hope the future carries on.
And if you do, if it's a one-off and it goes bad and they don't support you, then go somewhere else.
Oh, exactly. You know, there's and I don't believe they'd ever do that. If I'm really honest, they're a fantastic company to work with. They really are.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. Just quickly before we go on, we've had some people asking if we can reintroduce the panel. So I've got next to me Neil Smith from Imperial Car Supermarket. Alexis is in the middle. She's from Prestige Diesels Portsmouth, and on the end is Andy Entwistle, who is our operations director here at Car Dealer. So something we're going to talk about, which we've sort of touched on a little bit, is how do you guys find selling cars on social media?
I'll start, because it'll be very quick. And then I'll hand over to Alexis, and we'll probably take up the rest of the show. We use social media for engagement. We use it for setting a slightly different tone out there. And we don't use it primarily to sell vehicles, and we don't see sales coming from Facebook, although Alexis has told me a way to do it today. So I might be changing
Giving
that.
away your secret, you shouldn't do that.
It's far more about engaging with people for us, generating awareness, brand awareness, and making sure, hoping that when they're in market for a vehicle, then they'll think about us.
Yeah.
So, not at the moment. Alexis.
I don't see a place, Twitter to be a place to sell your cars.
Because I was going to say, largely you don't really post that many cars of your own.
No, we've sold some cars from Twitter, but what I find Twitter is it gives you an opportunity to build relationships with people. So I've got some really fantastic followers who I know personally, I sometimes speak to over the phone, and I do believe when they're looking for their next car, I'm going to be the person they call, and that's my aim with Twitter. Yeah. It's not only to kind of, you know, keep in touch with the trade in general, it's to build relationships with people and hopefully get them to think of me next time they want to buy a car. Facebook's been a really steep learning curve. I'm not going to say too much because Jim Reed is the king of Facebook. He's taught me a lot about Facebook this year, because last year we couldn't quite get it. We were trying a few things and we never seemed to really get anywhere with it. We'd sold the odd car. I think that was luck, to be honest. But now we've been targeting people. It has been really, really good. Okay. The biggest problem for us is if we've got a car we're struggling to keep our cars at the moment. So we haven't got a lot of cars left. If a car's being put on Facebook, I won't then put it on Facebook. So we're limiting, every time we limit how many cars we can advertise on there. We're down to 4 cars at the moment, I think, in our showroom. So I've got nothing left to advertise. And then if you get an inquiry on a car, I then won't put it on Facebook, because why would I then go and spend more money on it? So every time I want to go and put a car on, I'm like, I've run out of cars to put on. So our the biggest thing against us at the moment is the amount of stock we have. But if I was Jim Reed with 50, 60, 70 cars, I don't know how many he has, but he is the king of Facebook, and he has cracked it. And he's got the right stock to put on there. The other key thing is the right stock. Right. You know, I think if you put a Ford Fiesta on there, it's not the right car. You need to put something in front of somebody, and when they don't want a car and they go, I need that car, I need it.
But what Jim does, and I think you started doing this, because I'm a big Facebooker, I'm not really into the Twitter.
I noticed that recently. I can see it popping up.
But Jim tends to put on the halo stuff.
Yes.
You know, the really nice stuff comes in. He had a Mark 1 Focus RS came in, and he put that on there, and that drags people in because it's that sexy car. And you're doing the same thing. You've had a couple of really nice halo, well-spec cars come in, and it's interesting. You know, I watch and follow a lot of our readers, and some people are doing this. Some people stick all the stock on there. That doesn't work. You turn off very, very quickly. Yeah. And some people, like yourself, just use it for interacting and social and creating that following.
I will say, I don't want to take all credit for this, because Josh actually does our Facebook page.
Yeah.
So I feel really bad, because I do not want to take credit. Because
probably watching now.
There's a point where there's a point actually where, you know, we'll put a car on at 5, 6 o'clock at night, and poor Josh, at one night we got bombarded with inquiries, and I think he was there till 11:30 in his own time. We didn't ask him to, still answering those inquiries.
It proves it works.
Yeah. But the one thing I also would say with Facebook is it's not just about selling that car. We're having loads of people walk in from Facebook. I saw you on Facebook. I get so excited. I'm like, oh my God, it's working. And that's what we're getting. I saw you on Facebook.
Do you think that's the future then?
I think it's a big part of the future, but it is you've got to be very careful, because you can plough a lot of money into it and not get anywhere.
Neil, what about YouTube? You tried YouTube?
We've got a YouTube channel. We set the YouTube channel up about 4 to 5 years ago. The reason primarily was at that time we were doing 2-minute quick rough cut videos of each car. So guy with a camera going around videoing. Every car went on the YouTube. We were also doing a lot of how-to videos, how to pair your Bluetooth with your Parac system and those sort of things. And in fact, it's something we've revisited in the literally last month, because where we'd left it quite inactive, where we'd moved to the new website, what we did see when we went back to the channel is that we've got over 3 million views now on that channel, and a lot of the how-to videos are getting 17, 18, 19,000 views. So if you look at our YouTube channel today, we put a new how-to video up last week. We're going to repost some of those, and we're starting to do a lot more now around the rough cut videos of new stock in. And again, those halo what some people call car porn cars, which we're putting on there now, which is F-Type Jag that we took in and various cars like that. I
can't see that.
Yeah. You tell me how to sell cars on Facebook, you can test drive it. Right. So yeah, for us now, video is the next big step for us.
I know it's something that Umesh really praises. He was posting on the forum about it, that his videos are what they sell cars for him, because it really shows what the kind
of... from an SEO point of view now as well. Google are really paying a lot of attention to video, so we're moving back. But again, it's your point there about just plastering Facebook with stock. That doesn't work. Putting all your stock on the it's got to be stock that people. It's got to be videos that people will engage with. And for us, it's like test drives. We'll do our own test drives of those cars. We'll do those how-to videos. And because people will go in and search, how do I get my Bluetooth to link with the command system? Then if ours is up there, then they're going to start to engage with us. Yeah. So it is back in the frame for us now, definitely.
I'd love to do that, I just don't have the time at the moment. I've already got like too many pies and not enough fingers.
Yeah. We are running out of time slightly, but I did ask you guys what was your favourite car from Geneva, and I know that you've prepared one, so you can fill this slot.
You know, you think you know what it is as well.
No, I don't.
Good.
Because you said it's something that will surprise.
Well, it's not the Porsche.
Not the Porsche.
Sorry, Porsche retail, if you're watching, I feel really bad.
Mission E.
No.
The hybrid one. No.
And Fiat 124, a Bath.
Lovely, yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh my God.
Everyone in our office hates that except me.
What? What? Seriously?
Yeah.
Which one do they like? Don't like the Rally or the Spider?
Don't like either of them. I like them, but there's been a lot of discussion about how they don't like it.
Everyone's talking about the Bugatti, of course, which is the car porn. That's not there. But I tell you what, it looks fantastic. The Alfa Romeo Giulia. Giulia looks amazing. Nice. I bet you it's going to be one of those you look at it, you think great, and then it just doesn't quite hit the mark. Which is a shame.
Really?
Convertible Evoque.
Oh no.
It was either that or the Skoda SUV, wasn't it?
Oh,
yeah.
And what was VW doing with that T-bone crossover thing?
It looks like a convertible Evoque.
Exactly what I thought. Exactly. It's awful. Yeah. Sorry, not so nice.
This is going to lose us all the followers right now. All the franchises switch off. But yeah, that surprised me actually. I thought you were going to go for the Bugatti.
I don't know, I'm just going to say I hate Bugattis. I would rather walk. I'm really sorry everyone, you probably, but I'm just not a Bugatti fan. I don't get it. I really don't get it.
If you get to drive one,
maybe I need to see one in person, but I find them so ugly.
I think I don't think there's going to be a lot of Bugatti dealers watching.
No.
I know, but I might have some Twitter followers who have just unfollowed me really fast.
The thing is, they're so far beyond everyman. It's people look and it's very, very nice. You don't even think about it. You know, the Porsches and the Ferraris and the Koenigsegg's. It's kind of they're attainable, almost within reach. If I won a few quid, I could probably get one of those. Bugatti at what, 2.6 million euros? I mean, you've got to sell a small country to afford one of those.
Well, be you soon, Andy, won't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
We've had a quick question from the audience. Tim says, do you guys see social media overtaking the likes of Auto Trader or other websites for real sale leads?
Ooh, not for a long time.
No, that's all.
I think it could possibly. I mean, one of the things that I've learned recently, and I was really astounded by this, bearing in mind, I actually don't have Facebook. I don't have a Facebook page. 96% of UK adults are on Facebook.
Yeah.
Now, if you can tap into that, then you're onto a winner. And we're not there yet. We're definitely seeing a lot more. I think Jim Reed has just tapped into that. And I think the one thing, the reason why we're not there as a business yet and why a few other people aren't is that Jim Reed's been working on it a lot longer. Yeah. And I think that that's the key to it, is keep on building that. So I don't know if it will take over, but eventually it could. It could, because it's a lot more cost effective. And if you can put one car on there for £20 and guarantee it being sold, there you go.
But I think in the same way as social media moves on, Auto Trader and Motors and RAC
exactly.
will also.
No, they will.
Yeah.
What's not to say that social media, that the likes of Facebook won't decide, and it could be cars or it could be, I don't know, furniture, to set up a classified section.
Well, Google are meant to be doing cars,
now
aren't they?
But not in that particular way. If Facebook decided we're going to start classified, we're going to just have a classified section which you can buy rabbits and whatever, and they had a car section, that I think it's probably one of the few things that would make the current crop take note.
Well, I think the other, what I could never understand is why eBay had never monetised more their offering.
Yeah.
It's so basic.
It
but
is.
we get a lot of inquiries through eBay. Okay, a lot of them are time wasters, but we do get some good inquiries, but they've never sought to improve their offering. And I suppose Facebook's along. If Facebook came to the table with a really good package, then yeah, we'd all have to give it a go.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of people trying to dip their fingers or their toes into their pies, as you said earlier on, into that market at the moment. And talk, CDX is coming up in May, and the number of people that are exhibiting who are, in that market now, you'd be surprised at how many people are there. There's a lot more names than you realise.
You can do it really wrong though, the whole thing. I'm watching some dealers that are posting 12 cars a day, and I'm like, wow, you are going to lose everyone soon.
Yes, it's not as
we do about 1 or 2 a week. If we have the stock, at the moment we don't, which is great news.
Okay, I'm going to have to end it there, I'm afraid. Thank you, all of you, for coming along. I really appreciate you coming and sharing your views. Thank you everyone that's watched. It's been really great to have you. Thank you for all the comments that we've had. If you want to watch this again, or if you've just tuned in halfway through, we are going to be putting this onto our website, tradeplates.tv, later, and we'll be sharing it on our social media, so make sure you're following and liking us. If you want to be on the sofa with us, email me on info@tradeplates.tv and we will organise getting you in. We're going to be back again later in the month. We're releasing a date with a new topic, so you can start asking us questions and get involved. Thank you, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.